211, 212, 213. Oh. Hello. Hiya. Let's find a good spot. Hi guys, greetings. We're here in Aarhus. I just don't know if I'm saying it correctly after about 10 days I've been here. In Denmark, more or less north of Denmark. And we're going to be speaking about how to pick a PhD. How to pick a PhD. Very important topic, and so we're going to get into it immediately. So this video is all about you, and presumably you are coming to the end of a master's, or you finished a master's and you're deciding what PhD to pick. You're thinking about doing a PhD. I wrote an article about this, just an article for fun, and it became successful. It was one of the only things I've written where people were interested in what I had to say. It was two girls that had asked me about it previously, if I could give them advice on picking a PhD. I realised that I had more to say about it than what I thought. So then I wrote the article, and then I wrote a social media post that people loved. So this is why I'm doing the video. Let's get into it immediately. How to pick a PhD. There's several things that you need to think about from the beginning. One, and these are all just my opinions. First, I'm speaking about people that are going to be offering you a PhD because you've applied just as you would apply for any normal job. Any normal job. Some people are tempted to write grants, get money, and then apply for, basically get money to do their own research, and then go looking for a professor that would somehow want to supervise them. I'm not speaking about that. I'm not speaking about people who want to do PhDs for free, and I'm not speaking about people who want to choose these like slightly more creative routes that I'm not so interested in. I really think the best thing to do is for you to approach a professor and who has a PhD position, who is looking, essentially just like a boss who's looking to hire people. So that's the context. So I've got a few things to say. So first thing, I took some notes for you. So topic. Make sure you choose a topic that interests you. Now that could seem fairly obvious, but I strongly recommend checking out the academic articles that these people, your potential boss or the other people, the postdocs or the PhDs, articles that these people have written in the team. That will give you an idea of really what the job would entail. Of course, reading these articles is phenomenally boring. If you don't have the knowledge at the beginning, it's all technical language. It's going to be so difficult. And but forcing yourself to kind of understand what the topic is about could be very interesting. By the way, yes, I don't want to ramble. I've only got 10 minutes, and so this is going to take no more than 10 minutes. Yes, we've already used up two and a half. So just make sure that the topic is of interest to you. One. Second thing, location. You want to choose a really nice location, or you would like your PhD to be in a nice location. I've met many PhDs over the past few days here that I've been invited over to Aarhus University, and it's a nice location. It's not the Caribbean, it's not Barcelona, it's not Ibiza, but this is the port. This is a beautiful port area, very nice, widespread. So you want to choose a PhD, or you would like to hope that your PhD is in a cool location, potentially in like some big city somewhere that offers you loads of opportunities. So the location is important. A PhD will last about 3 years, 4. The slow ones even take 5 years. So you want to spend these years, maybe like the best years of your life, you want to spend them in a nice location. Okay, location obvious. Then two other really important things that are just like so important for you. One are the structural elements. So what do I mean by the structural elements? You need a PhD, you want to choose a PhD where you have all the structural elements, where they offer you the structural elements. What are the structural elements? An office, fairly obvious things. But some places I've seen places, I mean, if people are struggling to find office space for you, then run a mile. So you want a place that's going to give you office space, a computer, good lighting. If your eyes aren't very good as mine, then I immediately said, oh, I'm going to be working usually all throughout the night. I want more lights here, so they went and got me that. You need all the structural components to do a PhD, a tricky PhD. So that's obvious, but something for you to look out for. If people are offering you a job and you want to somehow make sure, maybe you don't want to say, oh, what are the structural components or something, but you want to check out the place where you could be spending a few years, understanding if the office, you could obviously ask, is this going to be my office? And finding out if the office even looks nice, if it looks like a place where you want to spend loads of your time. Now, of course, a lot of these universities are a bit old or a bit impersonal, so the offices aren't always very nice, but it could help you get an idea. So you want the structural components to be in place. You absolutely, I mean, this channel is all about addicted to people, so I'm mainly speaking to people who would be doing a PhD investigating something related to people, like I did, something to do with either psychology or neuroscience or even marketing or business. Most of these disciplines really revolve around people and choices. So you want to have all the necessary equipment that allows you to investigate people. Exactly. And so these are the structural elements. Let's see. As part of the structural elements, one thing I was forgetting was that there has to be money for you to go on conferences, fancy conferences around the world, at least once a year. Again, if you get offered a PhD and there isn't money to go in these fancy conferences, or you'd have to pay it for yourself. I know a girl that had to go, she didn't have to go, but she really wanted to go to a conference. There was no money. She paid to go from England all the way to Florida, something like £2,000 in total plus expenses. She paid that out of her own pocket. That's criminal, that's ridiculous. If there's no money for you to go on fancy conferences, just run away. I mean, that's where you meet people that are working on similar things to yourself. So that's very important. Last thing about the structural components related to the computer. I mean, if you're investigating anything to do with people, running analysis, maybe doing a bit of coding, some statistics, you want a good computer. You really want a good computer. Again, usually this doesn't happen, but maybe in some smaller, more crappy universities, the computers could be old and maybe they don't allow you to do the kind of fancy things that you would like to do. Okay, so we said topic, we said place, we said structural components, and now the last and most important one. Let's see how we're doing for time. We still have 2 minutes. This is so important. The psychological elements. The psychological elements. Maybe we could push it over here. So if you are going to be choosing a PhD, and when you pick a PhD, you want there to be the psychological elements in place. What are the psychological elements? Hear me out. One is encouragement. So you want there to be some form of encouragement where you feel like you've got the backing and the belief of your supervisor. So important. You want it to be an encouraging environment where you feel a bit creative and you feel kind of free you feel free and empowered to put in all these massive amount of hours into your PhD. So let's see, I don't want the sun to be smashing down on me like this. So I was lucky enough, I don't want this to be about me, it's all about you, but I had all the superstructural elements infinite amount of money to spend on experiments and conferences and fancy computers, but I was lacking in my job the belief and encouragement. So these are really big things. You want a place where there are these things. So obviously it's going to be difficult for you to know if these things are in place when somebody's offering you a PhD, or maybe you've got the choice between two different PhDs. I would always choose the one where you can see that the person is like the supervisor or the people around you, they look empathic. I would choose empathy, to work with people that have good emotional intelligence rather than the big name. I would choose that any day. But again, it all depends on the field. It's all very specific. If the really big name is going to like allow your career to just go into the stratosphere, then okay. But usually it's much better to work with somebody where you've got a nice feeling and that there is encouragement. So encouragement is so important. Psychological component. I think we're doing good for time. Just need to start wrapping it up. And another one is related to that is mentoring. You want to, and this could even be a good question to ask when you're applying for, when they're offering you the PhD and you're thinking about taking it, or you're applying for PhDs, you want there to be a supervisor who will guarantee you meetings. Weekly or bi-weekly meetings is so important. You want to somehow feel part of a process and where the person is there and you can reach out and ask questions. It's so important. I know some people that just like never see their supervisor. The supervisor is maybe close to retiring, disappears, goes away to Thailand for a few months, and like all these slightly more bizarre things where the person, you don't quite know where they are. They have maybe even another office in another university. These things are all, you want a PhD supervisor that's going to guarantee you meetings. And if you even ask that during your interview or before you accept, that'll be a really good question. People will appreciate that because you'll seem ambitious and you'll seem like serious. So mentoring, you want to guarantee that there's going to be some kind of Buddha figure that will give you all the knowledge necessary and who's happy to pass the knowledge on to you. Again, some PhD supervisors, they don't have that altruistic approach, and they see the mentoring as like, oh, annoying, I have to meet my PhD students. You don't want these people. You want people who are delighted to pass on the knowledge on to you. Okay. Next point, I'm going too slow. The next point, I've got it written over here. The next point is cooperation in the team. This is really important. You want to see, this is really important. The other people, presumably there will be other PhD students that are working for the same person, and you want to get a feel for if there's a climate of cooperation. Again, very difficult to know this before you start. Maybe you'll only realise this after a few months that you've started. Running out of saliva after a few months that you've started. But what you're going to be looking out for is a climate of cooperation where you can ask other people questions. People are not annoyed at helping you. People think, I was in that same situation. And again, you want a climate of cooperation. And so you want a climate of cooperation for sure. Mine, again, don't want this to be all about me, it's all about you. But just to give you an example, mine, I realised only on a plane to Florida, to a conference in Florida, that the girl during my PhD, the girl that was in the office next to mine was working on the exact same topic as me, just from a slightly different perspective. I mean, that's ridiculous that you just learned, like, there was just no communication within the team, and just there was no climate of cooperation. So then you realise you see somebody every single day, you've got no idea what the hell they're working on, and you realise that they're working on something very similar to you, only on a plane to a conference like over to Florida. That's just criminal, ridiculous. So you want there to be a climate of cooperation. In relation to this, So in relation to the mentoring and the climate of cooperation, I can say one quick thing, and the quick thing is that the supervisors, the professors, they're the ones that have to push down this climate of cooperation. If they are not a cooperative person and they're very much in their own world of just an academic in their ivory tower writing articles, then chances are there's not going to be any cooperation in the team either. And the slightly weird thing about this job, about being a professor at university, is that it's a very, very high status job, tends to be paid a lot of money in most countries, but you don't get chosen to do that job because you're a great manager of people. You usually get chosen because you're very good at publishing articles. So quite often these professors are just pretty rubbish at managing people. I know some obviously that are amazing, but I'm just saying in general they're not good at managing people. So if you find a supervisor who is good at managing people and who's fairly empathic, then that's fantastic. Then let's see. One thing that helps qualify these different statements that I'm making is that you need to appreciate the fact that a PhD is a solo experience. It's a solo effort or effortful solo experience. So of course there has to be cooperation, of course there has to be all the awesome mentoring, but you need to appreciate the fact that ultimately it's a job where you're going to be spending loads and loads of hours on your own. So that's just for you to manage expectation. So of course you should definitely expect the mentoring. You should definitely hope and expect that there's a nice cooperation within the team. But again, I obviously don't go there expecting all these things and thinking, oh, I want these people to encourage me, I want them to be the belief, I want to see all the encouragement. And because these things should be there, but ultimately it's also true that some people expect almost too much. I've met some PhD students that really expect it to be expect too much from this point of view and forget that it really is a massive, effortful solo experience. So I think that concludes everything on the psychological elements, which are so important and not enough people speak about them. So if I have just one last minute, then quick thing before I go, bonuses. If your PhD that you're being offered has these bonuses, then that's amazing, but usually they don't. So one of them is a laptop. Most PhDs, I've known some PhDs that have received fancy laptops because they had to run all these like fancy analysis, and that's amazing. Most PhD positions, you won't be offered a laptop or given a laptop. If you are given a laptop, that's an amazing bonus. You save like a lot of money, especially if you're going to get yourself a really good laptop. So laptop is one bonus. Second bonus is free coffee and water. This is also very important. I've been to unis where they have amazing coffee machines and it's all beautiful coffee machine that gives you the best coffee, all for free. It's because they want all the staff, including PhD students, to be well caffeinated so they can make good decisions and just make sense. So, and also water, fizzy water and still water and all parts of these cool machines. And I've been to other universities, even at universities with a lot of money, that didn't offer this. If your uni does offer that, I see that as a cool bonus. Instead of every day spending cash and coffees, it quickly adds up. Good daily allowance for spending conferences. Yeah, this is also an important one. It's good to find out. It's good to find out sooner or later what your allowance is for conferences. Now I know that, imagine you've been sent to a fancy conference on the other side of the world. It's a nice feeling to know that what you're spending is getting covered by the university. It just makes you feel better, makes you feel like some kind of businessman, like you're valued. And I know universities that just they'll pay for your ticket over there and then that's it. That's fine, but it's also really nice. And my university during my PhD, they guaranteed me something like $50 a day to spend on food. You just had to keep the receipts. So that's one thing to find out. That's a nice bonus as well, that when you go to conferences, then you should find out what your daily allowance is in order, like the money that you can spend that uni will give you back. And the last bonus is workshops. It's nice for you to make sure, a lot of these things are about budget, to be honest, and just make sure that within your budget or within your possibilities, there's a chance to go on fancy workshops. They could even be like on the other side of the world, where there's some super expert that's going to teach you some technique, like a statistical technique or a writing technique or something. And so I've been on quite a number of these, and I've always thought that was like really cool to be sent away over to Chicago or to some part of Switzerland to learn some fancy technique. So workshops, that means that the people where you're doing the PhD are invested in your learning. They want you to learn, they're thinking about your future. So I think that's everything. I think that the video went a bit longer than what I wanted. So yeah, so I hope you found that useful. I think it was a bit longer than what I expected, but yeah. So all the best in picking the PhD, and yeah, I hope that was useful. Yeah, especially the psychological component is just so important. So these are things to look out for, and as I said, you probably won't know them beforehand, but these are things that you could be looking out for. And there's so many people that start PhDs and then quit because some of these aspects are just not there. A lot of the times the supervisor is just like really dreadful at managing people, because as I said, quite often they're not managers of people. So if you get a supervisor that's awful at managing people, that can be very difficult. But you want to make sure that all these elements are there, especially the psychological elements. So yeah, all the best with that, and I wish you a lovely day.